Thank you, everyone. We'll begin this evening with a presentation, and then I believe after that we have one public hearing, and then we'll go to our usual 15-minute public comment period. So there's two items before public comment. The first one is a special presentation by the Opportunity Council on understanding housing subsidies. During the work session on rental barriers and concerns during our planning committee, it became clear that there was a lot of confusion and some misperception around stabilizing housing vouchers, how they work, and who participates. The council has invited Adrian Solenberger, who is a landlord-tenant liaison of the Opportunity Council, to explain housing subsidies and how home owners who rent can participate in the programs and contribute positively to the affordable housing crisis in Bellingham. One subsidy program landlords should be aware of is the Master Leasing Housing Program. Landlords who participate in these programs sign a lease with the Opportunity Council, who then sublets units to qualified low-income individuals and families. Both the Opportunity Council and subletting parties are subject to standard lease obligations. That doesn't change. Adrian Solenberger is here to present. Shall we begin directly with Adrian? If you'd come on forward. Are you going to be presenting from over here or up
it's
here?
Okay with the council. Adrian and Gary, there's a panel.
Okay.
I'm
Greg.
here to advance the slides.
Okay. They've got the executive director working the AV tonight.
I'm privileged.
So which of you would like to begin tonight?
Sure. So
Go
I'm
ahead.
Adrian Solenberger. I'm the landlord liaison with the Opportunity Council and the Whatcom Homeless Service Center. I have with me Gary Dolan, who is from the Veteran Affairs, who is a senior social worker who will be speaking about veteran housing. And then we should hopefully have a representative from one of our partner landlords, Windermere, either Sandy Jones or Bethany Aldrich.
And I'm Greg Winter, Executive Director of Opportunity Council. Let's bring your Executive Director to work day.
Yay. So I'm going to begin the presentation, which is kind of providing a little bit of a backdrop of our local demographics, both for renters and our homeless population. So you can advance our slide. In the city of Bellingham, we have 54% of our present population that are renter households. The average wage of our community is $11.83, and rent affordable at this wage would be $615. That's the assumption of folks not spending more than 30% of income towards a rent standard. 3,048 of our population receive SSI only, not to be confused with SSDI, which is a disability income you can collect if you have a work history to pull from. On that income alone, the rent affordability rate would be $232 or $234, my apologies. And then according to HUD, the average rent rate currently in the city of Bellingham is $747 for a one-bedroom and $968 for a two-bedroom. However, HUD is not in Bellingham presently, so they don't realize that most of our one-bedroom rentals are going for around $800 and our two-bedrooms for over $1,000.
If I can editorialize just a little bit here.
I knew you would.
You will have seen in recent reporting that reported average rents way higher than this. So depending on where you look, whether you look to HUD, whether you look to the University of Washington's Runstad Real Estate Research Center or Zillow, you're going to find wildly different estimates of average rent. What we know is that rents are increasing rapidly and are significantly higher than HUD is estimating.
And so then, like Greg was saying, one of the issues in our community is that the vacancy rates for affordable housing are just very low and very competitive. Don't go forward just yet. It's okay, I'll pause. What I wanted to kind of speak to, though, with that in mind is that right now you're seeing a big transition in our community where landlords are taking all their Class C properties, which are your older, lower kind of income properties, and upgrading them. So that they can kind of buy into this market of making more money. So a lot of our Class Cs that we were able to use for low-income households are now being flipped into Class A properties. And so those rents are going up. Now I can say. And so the next thing that we'll look at is just some of the demographics of our local homeless population. Some of you may be aware that in late January, the Whatcom Homeless Service Center and the county did a point-in-time count. So they went out on one day to try to capture the best demographics of our current population to see where we're standing right now. Of the people counted, 741 of those individuals were experiencing homelessness at this point in time. 94 of them were families with children that included 287 persons. 78% of our current homeless population are singles, meaning single male or female households, not with family or not with a partner of any kind. 44% of the population identifies as female, and 24% are minors under the age of 18. 15% are less than 10 years old, and 7 were unaccompanied homeless minors between the ages of 13 and 17.
This is why I'm here. We have a little glitch in there.
So the next thing to kind of help explain is what happens with all the homeless folk in our community. Whatcom County has what we call a coordinated entry system. So everyone gets to come into the Opportunity Council directly to apply for, be assessed for housing, a housing subsidy program or case management services. The Whatcom Homeless Service Center utilizes what we call a VI SPDAT, which is an assessment tool that assesses the vulnerability of each individual and individuals within a household. The assessment helps give us an idea of those most medically fragile, fleeing domestic violence, or critical needs so that we can try to prioritize not just those in most need getting housed first, but also identify the best kind of housing that fits that individual. So some people may have maybe part-time work and are able to afford some part of rent on their own. Maybe they rent got raised and they have to relocate to another apartment, and we can provide something as simple as like move-in assistance. Other folks will score into a situation where they require long-term supportive housing with case management services, wraparound recovery services, and stuff like that. And then, so we also coordinate with our partner agencies through that coordinated entry system. So when folks come into Opportunity Council, we can then refer to the most appropriate agency to serve them. So Lydia Place serving families, and Northwest Youth Services serving young adults and youth, and CCS usually serving our chronic homeless population. This is a nice visual kind of image of what that process looks like. You have your homeless folk on my far left-hand side coming into the service center, and then it kind of delineates the different types of housing. So we have the short term, again, for those people who probably have some form of income and likely just need help with deposit assistance or a couple of months to get on their feet. We have the permanent supportive program that I mentioned. So Shelter Plus Care is something that is funded. We get funding through the BHA. It's different than Section 8 because it means that you have case management support for the duration of time that you're in housing, and that those individuals going into that program require that level of service and need in order to stay housed. We also have folks that screen into veteran housing. So our VAF, and SSVF programs. And then we have some folks that just need a transitional period time of housing. So sometimes you'll see that the YWCA, the Northwest Youth Services has something like that. And then the city also subsidizes tenant-based rental assistance for a maximum period of 2 years to help people transition back into employment and stable housing. So we're going to start talking about highlighting one type. Our permanent supportive housing program offers an option to do a master lease situation. And I'll get into master leasing, but housing placement for a master lease situation is what we call scattered site. That's separate than something like Francis Place or Citygate, if you're familiar with those programs, in terms of our units are then scattered throughout all of Whatcom County. The model for scattered site is successful in helping people kind of reintegrate back into their community, so you're able to see people maybe stay in that master lease program sometimes for 4 to 5 years and then transition into their own kind of independence. Sometimes like Section 8, where they don't need long-term supportive services like case management or recovery services, but they still might need like financial assistance to move forward. The benefits of it is that it deconstructs poverty in your community and promotes a more stable kind of environment for all of those concerned. Models in European countries are very similar, like everything that I would say is scattered site or what they call integrated housing. So they don't separate out their low-income households from their middle and upper class households. It also supports the ability for people to kind of, again, move past their identity barriers that may have cultivated their homelessness, whether they've been fleeing DV, had a previous history of criminal record, or drug addiction history. And it also helps people going through the mental health system to kind of normalize their mental health illness, stabilize, and not be kind of institutionalized, which can slow down the process of that reintegration. So master leasing specifically is where the Whatcom Homeless Service Center is renting directly from a landlord or a property management company. So we kind of carry a lot of the burden, screening the tenants, delivering 10-day notices, 20-day notices, and trying to respond to that sometimes problematic or troublesome behavior that otherwise a landlord would have to kind of navigate on their own. We also, when it comes to, let's say, damages in the unit, if someone has a mental health crisis and does not nice things, then we as the agency, being the tenant of the landlord, incur those costs and that responsibility to rectify that unit kind of situation. All of our tenants that go through our master leasing program receive case management. So another added asset is that the case managers are helping complete home visits and help those tenants learn how to follow tenant rules and their leasing obligations. It is, like I've mentioned before, a permanent supportive housing program. And there's also no timing out pressure. So tenants don't, when you're serving an individual that scores high on the SPDAT, that's identified as being highly vulnerable, having this pressure of having to exit transitional housing in a certain time fashion can kind of slow down their process for recovery. But having the wraparound services be present in the home, so to speak, within the community, enables them to focus on what their goals are and again transition hopefully back into the community more rapidly. And again, just some of the benefits. So when we talk about our affordable housing challenge and our homeless population presently, landlords can be a part of this process by being open and willing to master lease with the Whatcom Homeless Service Center. It does decrease the burden of property management, like I said, on their behalf, because we help with tenant screening. There's consistent rent for them, so even if we have a vacancy in a unit, we continue to pay that monthly rent. We help, again, deliver all those 10-day notices, 20-day notices, and if a situation were to get to eviction, that's also something that we have to navigate as an agency then, and costs are incurred, which is a big help and a relief of burden to landlords. We also provide a free housing quality standard inspection that meets and complies with the City of Bellingham's rental registration program. So that's another benefit that they see. Yeah, that's it for me. So, yeah, if you all have a copy of this. So if you want more information on any of these topics, then the references can kind of direct you in that way. And we have Gary Dolan from the VA Affairs, who's going to talk about Veteran Affairs, who's going to talk about his experiences with veteran homelessness and working on trying to find rental markets for them.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I've been in Bellingham working for the Department of Veteran Affairs for 7 years. I now have a colleague, a partner, who helps with that burden. His name is Josh, and he's not able to be here this evening, but the two of us together basically handle almost all of the aspects of veteran housing. Although I'm very pleased and proud to be part of the whole coordinated entry program at Opportunity Council, because we work with all the community partners to find placement for the homeless veterans. We have 45 vouchers. Right now, 43 are filled. We have 2 that are looking. So actually, the vouchers themselves are all being utilized. We have what we call an interest list, which is different than a waiting list because we base the next person coming in on acuity as opposed to chronology. So, and the acuity seems to be getting higher. And we could speculate why, but the most important thing is that we have the 45 vouchers. Most of them are centered in the Bellingham area. and we also provide case management. The two of us are licensed clinical social workers. I'm a senior social worker with the Department of Veteran Affairs. And so basically we're responsible for all of the mental health, behavioral issues, substance abuse issues. And it's a privilege to be able to work with these veterans who have, served our country for, a period of time. We are running into some difficulties right now because, again, the payment standard for the Housing Authority is much lower than what it's actually costing to get apartments. So what's happening is that we will award a voucher to a veteran or a family, and the vouchers are good for about 120 days, and now they're running out, and so we have to do special requests to extend those vouchers because the housing is just not available. Either the housing is too expensive. In our area, we're finding that a lot of the apartments are running around $950 for a one-bedroom apartment. And the income of the veterans is very limited. In a lot of cases, it's zero. So when they find an apartment that might be available, they can't afford it. 30% of the income of a veteran is used for his contribution to the rent. And in a lot of cases right now, we're having a lot of veterans who have no income. It's becoming much more difficult to find places, and we're spending a tremendous amount of time, quote unquote, apartment hunting. And therefore, some of my time spent with mental health issues or behavioral issues is being taken up by the amount of time we have to spend looking for a place. I don't know if there's questions or.
And I don't know, we have Windermere with us too. We can save questions if you don't mind to the end, but I did want to give an opportunity for one of our partner landlords, one of our key landlords, Windermere Property Management, to kind of speak to their relationship working with us as an agency, master leasing, and this master lease programs. I'll give you my desk.
Thank you, Adrian. And thank you for the opportunity to showcase maybe a bit of our challenges that we have with property management companies being the go-between between tenants and landlords in this very, very competitive market. I certainly understand your challenges. We see it every day from every element that walks through our doors. There's panic in not just low-income folks that enter our office, but from every aspect, every walk of life. There just is not enough housing out there to accommodate the needs. I don't think there's any one of us that want to see homelessness. It's not a healthy atmosphere for environment for anyone. Those people that are homeless, much less the communities, the Northwest, the state, the U.S. It's just not a good place for any of us to be. It's very concerning, and I wish I had the magic solution to offer you. However, I don't. I don't have the magic solution. Adrian was gracious enough to ask for a candid report on our relationship. I have to say that working with Opportunity Council has been a bonus for many of our owners. We work with them in many aspects, but the master leasing project is certainly a wonderful program. They offer a hand up to a wide variety of folks out there that just need a helping hand, and we appreciate that, and we want to cooperate with them every chance we possibly get. It's guaranteed income for our owners, and it's guaranteed repairs should it come to that, and many times it does, and I'll address that a bit later. This is not true of all subsidy programs, so it is very, very attractive to want to do business with Adrian and her team. We continue to have a great working partnership with Opportunity Council. Our obligation as property managers is to provide a healthy and safe environment for the whole of the community. In other words, not just one tenant, but the entire community within a complex. So we look at look at the umbrella factor. You know, if we've got great tenants that are threatening to leave because we've got a person that is causing issues, it's hard for us to not look at the big picture and to give that person maybe the attention that they need to understand what a community living means. And that's where Opportunity Council comes in, and they are a really good advocate for those tenants that need maybe a bit of counseling on community living. We are very aggressively trying to fill those units that are a good fit for Opportunity Council in that regard, and let their applicants have a good place and a safe place to live. There's no cap on rental payments, such as with many of the housing programs, and I think you addressed that the Housing Authority just struggles. By the time they assess what the last year was and implement the new rates, they're already behind. They're already we're not being able to qualify those tenants. So it's very much easier for us to do business with the Opportunity Council. I do have to say there are some challenges. Contending with those that, again, those persons that are having a struggle fitting into a community. Maybe they've never lived in a community, maybe they haven't lived in one for so long that they don't understand the requirements that it takes to make a good tenant and be part of community living. Noise restrictions, behavioral issues, not moving in unauthorized people, not all of a sudden having 7 or 8 people living in a 1-bedroom apartment, limiting comings and goings day and night. We just ask 3 things of our residents. We ask you to take care of the asset, be a good neighbor, and pay your rent on time. Well, if Opportunity Council is paying the rent, then we really only are asking 2 things of those residents, and being a good neighbor is a huge portion of that equation. And when somebody comes home from working really hard all day long and they're trying to sleep so they can get up and go to work the next morning, screaming and hollering in the parking lot, cussing, laughing, fighting, cars coming and going, people running up and down the stairs, those are all issues that we have to contend with and make it a struggle for those people that are not conforming, for lack of a better word, to community living. The majority of subsidized tenants are welcome in a community and are excellent tenants. We have 2,140 residents, and of those, only a handful are really an issue. So it's the minority that takes up the time and resources of the property manager and become a concern. Just to give you an overview of some recent tenants that I have dealt with through the master leasing program with Opportunity Council. In the last year, I personally have had 3 residents that have taken a lot of time. One was a lady who had been homeless for years, and moved her in to an apartment, and she just struggled with conformancy. She just really struggled. Her place, she was doing an extreme amount of damage just by slovenliness. You know, a dog being allowed to do whatever a dog does naturally without taking it out and those kind of things. We ended up, even though the Opportunity Council was wonderful and stepped in and tried to be an advocate and tried to counsel her on this is the expectation and this is what you need to do to secure and keep your housing. she just couldn't. She couldn't do it. She didn't have the ability, and we ended up taking her to eviction. Another instance was just recently, and we had a tenant that lived at a property, and she went off of her medication, and it was totally a medication issue, but she had a bat, and she was swinging the bat around, threatening the tenants. I got a call. I went over there. She was swinging the bat at me, threatening to kill me, threatening to kill the tenants, threatening to damage cars. I had the police come, and she failed to respond to their knock on the door, so they didn't do anything. They went away. Within a week's time, she had done over $10,000 damage to the inside of that property, smashing windows, smashing walls, doors, appliances, you name it. So, you know, those are challenging issues, and certainly for the other residents in that complex, it was a very trying and hard time. We also have a tenant ongoing that is harassing contractors on site. She's causing obstruction to the access to the property. It's their time, it's their bid. You know, they've got bid work going on, and she's chewing up their time, as well as there are contractors that are now refusing to go on site because of her actions. Carpet layers, flooring people, formica people, tile people, you name it. We're just struggling. So those are just a few of the issues that we do deal with on an ongoing basis, and thank goodness for the Opportunity Council, because they are a great advocate. They are better equipped to deal with those counseling type issues, and for the most part they're quite successful, I have to say, and thank goodness not all of our tenants end up such as these three examples. I guess that's all I have for you tonight, and thank you for your time and listening to my issues and my our experience with Opportunity Council. We appreciate everything they do for this community.
Okay, thank you very much. Adrian, I don't know if you want to come back up again. Would you like to take questions now, or is there more you ready for questions or comments? Council members. Gene.
Just a quick, for the gentleman, you said 44. Is that all you're allowed to have, or is that for Bellingham or Whatcom County? Or
The
what?
correct number is 45. I may have made a mistake. It's for the entire county.
That's all they send to this area?
Correct. And I would add, if I may, that of course, I don't know what the statistics are as of today, but at one point we had reduced veteran homelessness by 80%. I had the great opportunity when I first came here 7 years ago of hooking up with Greg, and came up with some really innovative and I think creative ideas.
So how many's on the waiting list?
Right now I have about 6 to 10.
That's okay.
And it's all, again, based on acuity, and it's looking more and more like they may be there for a while.
Okay, thank you.
Pinky?
I was wondering, in any of our new housing, if we have some opportunities coming up for some buildings for master leasing, or where we are in, what's our need right now?
That's a great question. This is my plug for case management now. A case manager can carry a caseload of approximately 20 individuals at a time. When you're dealing with permanent supportive housing, those folks, like I mentioned before, are going to take, on average, 3 to 5 years to reach to a point where they will no longer need ongoing case management services. Case management usually starts off on a weekly basis, so some of those folks with higher need will be seen multiple times within a week, and transitions to once a month, just to kind of give you an idea. Everyone's caseload in Whatcom County is full. So we have money to spend in the master leasing programs. We have Shelter Plus Care dollars that can be spent, and we have our supportive housing program grant to spend, but we don't have case managers to acquire those caseloads. The national standard from a housing first approach would assign a case manager 12 to 15. So the case managers are already, 20, 25, well over. So our need would be, I would say, case managers to help put those people into housing, deal with recovery-related issues, and then reach this, that level of stability.
Dan?
When the subsidy comes from federal sources, is it adjusted for area median income or the increases in rental prices? How flexible and nimble is that, or is it not?
Not very flexible at all. HUD does set the standard that was mentioned in the beginning, where their projection for the one bedrooms, the 747, that's to include all your utilities. There are some instances in some subsidy programs where we can try to do what we call a rent reasonableness standard to kind of show that there's nothing available at all in that rent range, and sometimes get some wiggle room or an exception. Unlike Section 8, however, we spoke before in work sessions about ability to pay beyond that 30%. You can't do that in Shelter Plus Care and the other programs that we were mentioning. So rigid.
Roxanne?
Really not accusing anyone of anything. This is just some community input that I had heard, is that some people have had problems getting the last and damage deposit money back, and that's one of the reasons that they didn't want to continue to provide such voucher kinds of agreements. And I don't know if that's an isolated thing or if there are challenges. I'm just looking for opportunities to improve the relationship in that way so that we can get more people that want to provide these opportunities.
You mean the landlords are having a hard time getting rent and the damage deposit? I'm not yes, I guess I don't know which subsidy program that would refer to specifically. But I would say that if you're receiving a subsidy that's awarded through the Opportunity Council, those fees are usually paid all up at front. So whatever the landlord asks in the initial contract lease agreement would be paid out.
And what I'll do is connect that community member.
Yeah,
through
the
your
best thing
service.
to do is, and then I can have conversations, luckily, with program agencies, landlords, or whoever else
So
is
now it's
necessary.
quite widely at an event, and I want to reverse that whole
Yeah, that'd be
system.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, please do.
April?
Thank you so much for coming. I think I'd just like to make a distinction. If I'm wrong, let me know. When this community says that homelessness is one of the top things that we want to deal with, we need to recognize that in dealing with that, it's not just making sure those subsidies are there or making sure people aren't discriminating against the subsidies. It's us that start to partner with people like you
Right.
to show that we're a community that will wrap our arms around
Right.
people in that service. I think two distinctions of the types of people that we need to partner are landlords that are actually willing to keep a rent affordable for veterans because they are not allowed to contribute very much more than the voucher, is my understanding. Mm-hmm. And then others who maybe are still expecting around market rate, however, they want to offer their unit into the master leasing program but aren't quite sure. Maybe they've heard rumors about Section 8 or different things, and they really want to make sure that there's that support services. And so that would be the master leasing program. So I think what's really unique opportunity here in Bellingham is that anybody out there that has rentals, whether it be one or more, could certainly connect with you and can still get nearly market rate in some cases.
Yes.
And then have you along with that. And I would assume, as opposed to the few cases that out of the 2,100 cases that Windermere was discussing, that you could also probably work with the landlord or the owner of that property to give an idea of the neighborhood context. Maybe it's a low density development. What would be the most appropriate person to fill that unit? So thank goodness to Windermere, who's willing to partner and give some of our most challenging cases an opportunity to reconnect, because if you don't like people out in downtown or sitting in front of businesses, they have to be somewhere, and it's us who are going to be solving the problem. So you do a tremendous job. I can't imagine the stress that's on you constantly, because I mean, as soon as you get one placed, you're looking at probably 4 other faces or more over time. So I want to make sure that we get your contact information out. So it's in the packet, but also maybe we could, I don't even know if we could flash that up again. And I really hope that this spurs some people that want to call and they want to participate in this process. Just for the savings, not to have a property manager is quite a bit. It's $100 every 3 years, at least, to get your home inspected to comply with the city, and that's being waived. And I think the city also waives the $10 a year fee for the rental registration if somebody's participating in Section 8 or some other programs. So it can be a win-win for both, and I'm really thankful that you came to kind of explain this. And I hope that our community can really step up to the challenge. I really do.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Gary and Adrian. I think we had a housing town hall about 2 or so months ago, and one of the themes there is that there's really a whole range of housing problems, many of which the city cannot address directly, and we rely upon partners like the Veterans Affairs or like the Opportunity Council and the Homeless Services Center. There are niches that we're not going to fill, but we can partner with agencies who do, and we can each take our own area of expertise and area of strength. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to the